Beauties, welcome to my presentation on the Will to Live system. I am so glad you're here. This system is my heart project. It's my passion project. It's my way to serve the world. So today I will be presenting the system, which is 7 stages or pillars designed to help you truly want to stay on this planet, to be just point blank about it, and to help you learn how to thrive regardless of the wild thinking running through your head. And this is really a presentation, not just if you are considering doing the system or working with me or one of my groups. This is a presentation for anyone who would just like to learn about a different way to manage that awful cycle that can rule your life, where you're sure that you're never going into that bleak hole again, and then down the roller coaster goes, and you're back in the dark hole with all the destructive thoughts. That is an exhausting way to live. I get it. And this is also a great presentation for anyone who feels like the information out there around living with suicidal thinking is patronizing at best. I work with people like me who are creative, high IQ, neurodivergent, entrepreneurial, and let's be honest, being told, reach out for help, it can make us feel diminished right when we need to feel that there's some hope. So about me. So why is this something I'm doing? Well, I didn't just work in the mental health industry for over a decade, and do training and coaching and counseling. Therapy school dropout here. I am one of you. I have lived with self-destructive and suicidal thinking since I was old enough to recognize that you could exit this earth. When I started working in the mental health community thinking I'd find incredible answers and didn't, that's how this system eventually came about. I'm also, if you're someone who's sensitive and neurodivergent, I'm also on that side of the fence. I was diagnosed 30 years ago, actually, with ADHD, back when you had to have all 3 symptoms. The system also is influenced by a rather strange life where, despite working in mental health and investigating every kind of therapy out there, and knowing a lot of the science and being very interested in neuroscience and everything, I've also always been very open-minded. I have really been investigating other self-development modalities my whole life. The first time I meditated was when I was 7 years old. I was studying Buddhism at 16. I have tried and investigated pretty much every tool out there, from brain training and hypnosis to new neuroscience techniques and wacky machines on my head. I'm a bit of a explorer. And that really all led me to be the person giving this presentation. So what is the Will to Live system? Well, it combines not just psychology, but also brain training, somatic techniques, which are body-based tools, and what I would call energy tools, for lack of a better word. It combines all these things together, and it is how my life changed. So it's something I finally realized I could no longer gatekeep, so here I am sharing it. I'd also say it's a living system, because when I work with people like you, your feedback matters to me. I feel like it's evolving with community. My dream would be that this turns into a system that helps people around the world, and that can be adjusted to match cultural values and be as helpful as possible. It is an update to what I see as very outdated approach of helping people with suicidal thinking patterns. It is definitely a challenge. So one of the things I see as very unhelpful in the therapy community is this way of treating people with suicidal thinking as if they're sick or flawed. Who you truly are is fine, is wonderful. It is merely your thinking that has a glitch. There's nothing wrong with you. I could scream that from the mountaintops. It's a challenge as well to the idea of stopping suicidal thinking. It's asking the mental health community to shift the focus to helping people learn to want to live. Like, nobody ever asked me in all the years I did therapy, how's your will to live? Nobody did that. Because a lot of the times these very well-meaning therapists and doctors have never experienced suicidal thinking themselves. They don't realize that not everyone grows up learning the impulse to live or learning that life is worth living. I certainly didn't grow up with that. So these well-meaning doctors and therapists who naturally were given that kind of modeling as a child just have no idea. And this system is also definitely a pathway to personal power. The tools that you learn here might also help you with things like your finances, your ability to make a living, your social life. When we really learn how to be present to our life, a lot of things can change. But I need to be very clear on what the system isn't. It's not old school talk therapy. I'm not asking you to, create an encyclopedia of all your past experiences and all the things that ever hurt you. I'm not here to re-traumatize you. I did years of therapy like that. And that's a whole other story. I'm not saying that kind of therapy that delves deeply into your past doesn't have its time and place. And if that's something you're doing, that's fine. You can do the system alongside talk therapy. The system definitely isn't a blame game. It's not asking you to blame your life on other people. It's helping you take responsibility for your life. And I want to be very clear that this is not a solution if right now you are very, very fragile. Your brain is, in fact, incapable of deep learning and change if you are in a deep stress state. This system will be waiting for you when you're a bit more stabilized. But if you really need that one-on-one help and that urgent care, I encourage you to reach out. I just want to say right now that mental health hotlines, it can feel scary to call one, but the people who answer those phones, they want to talk to you. They're volunteering because they're interested in helping, or they're training to be a therapist. They're invested in helping you and they know what they're doing. And it can be a lot easier than talking to a family member or friend who is invested in their idea of who you are. So don't be afraid to reach out to a helpline if that's what you need. So this looks like a little word salad I've created over a very funky colored brain. But these are the 7 pillars of the Will to Live system, and they're going to make a lot more sense as we go on. But just to show you right now, the 7 pillars: reframe, reset, reconnect, restructure, recalibrate. I'm very obsessed with the release and reclaim. But these are powerful pillars, my friends. So let's get started. Reframing is a word that is used often in cognitive behavioral therapies. And the idea is asking your brain to see things from a completely different perspective. And we start with this pillar, reframe, because one of the most important things is that you stop identifying as you're thinking. You are not suicidal. You are a huge, entire, amazing system of things, and you are not your thinking. Let's just have a mini experience that will explain this better than me blathering on. I just want you to take a deep breath. Relax your body a little bit. Let's be present. Now, we're going to start by saying out loud, I'm self-destructive. I'm self-destructive. Just take a moment to notice where that lands in your body. Like, what does it feel like? Like when I say it, I feel heavy awfulness in my gut. I feel like burning in my throat and a heaviness in my chest. And then just take another deep breath. Try saying, my thinking is self-destructive. My thinking is self-destructive. Now, when I say that, it's more open. It's kind of up here in my mind, which is where it's really coming from. A lot of what we work on in the Will to Live system is really showing you how the thinking mind is merely a tool that you can have work for you instead of against you, okay? Another thing you're going to see here in this list of reframing is this idea that you're saying you've always wanted to die, but the truth is a part of you has always wanted to live. We're going to learn about that part in this system. And your body always wants to live. The body's amazing. The body will fight till the last moment. This whole thing, I have to get rid of destructive thoughts. That's the way a lot of therapists, bless their hearts, approach things. They give you the idea that they're going to work with you to help you stop those thoughts. That is a huge mistake, in my opinion. Put it this way. If I said to you right now, stop thinking of a pink elephant, get rid of any thoughts of a pink elephant, I can guarantee you that a pink elephant just danced its ass through your head. You see, the brain doesn't work in negatives or don'ts. It works in themes. And the second you place a subject in front of it, it's going to think about it. So the more these therapists focus on helping you stop destructive thinking, unfortunately, the more it can generate destructive thinking, right? It's a much more helpful approach to look at how you can thrive, to put your focus and your energy on raising your will to live. The other thing that you're going to learn in this system is that behind your thinking mind, you actually have another mind I call the greater mind, or the master identity, that is way more who you are, way more aligned with your true values, what matters to you, what you feel you're here for. And that part of you is always creative and wise. And you can access it so easily, which you will learn in this system. So the very next pillar, which is so crucial, is what I call reset. If we are going to want to be on the earth, we need to feel safe. It's very hard to want to live if we constantly feel afraid. And we might not be telling ourselves we feel afraid. In fact, we might be never daring to think that because we are in such a high stress state. We're in the fight mode where nothing can touch me, nothing can hurt me, But we are operating from fear. And not only does that block our ability to want to live, it also blocks our ability to truly create change for ourselves in our lives. If you feel like you're constantly having to put in 20 times more work than everyone else to get half as far, it's likely that you're living from a stress state. The systems in your body are running on high, and your brain is not activated in the parts where you can learn. So the reason we start with this reset pillar quite early on is because the more we can start to regulate your nervous system, the more you can learn all the other pillars in a way that's actually going to serve you. We're also going to look at how we can change your thermostat from chaos to stability. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, if our brain believes that we come from chaos, and that would be a childhood where we weren't safe, we weren't loved, we weren't cared for, we didn't get the things we needed to thrive, it will have a set of beliefs that create chaos. That might seem like something that's very hard to change, and I surely believed that once. God knows, I spent thousands on therapy. But the brain is like a machine that you can reprogram. Slightly clumsy metaphor, but let's go with that one. This technique came to me when I was very sick for 6 weeks and stuck lying in bed a lot. And I began to visualize an entire different childhood for myself. I later discovered that there's psychologists and psychotherapists out there who've created similar systems, convincing your brain that you come from stability. This is behind my brain now having a voice in it that's like a supportive mother cheerleader. The second I have destructive thinking, there's another voice going, that's a thought and you're amazing. Like, I'm not kidding. This is powerful stuff. So I want to talk here about how suicidal thinking is actually a survival mechanism gone wrong. You see, your brain thinks that the other side of life, whatever it is going to be safer for it than the experience that you're going through. The more we reset you into a feeling of safety and stability, the less your brain will veer towards destructive thinking. I'm not saying this is an overnight thing, but these are processes and tools that we begin to use that really, truly lower destructive thinking. So the next pillar is reconnect. Now, I know the word connection causes panic. It causes panic in me too. I am an introvert, so I totally understand if you're like, oh, no, connection isn't for me. I am not into socializing. I always feel nervous after connecting. There's a huge fallacy out there that connection involves deeply understanding other people. Even if you do get good at talking with other people, that is not truly connection if you're not connected to yourself. And when it comes to learning to want to live, the most important thing is actually starting with yourself. So relax. I'm not going to ask you to start going to parties. What I am going to ask you is to start truly learning how to connect into who you are. So that means that we learn how to truly be here and now in the present moment. We learn how to belong in the life we're in. Even if we don't understand how that's possible right now, we're going to learn techniques where you can feel you belong. We're going to learn how to connect to all that we are. This tool that I called Triad Talk was another huge game changer for me. Again, something I developed myself. You see, a lot of people who live with destructive and negative thinking, the only thing they're really connecting to is their thinking, which again is not who you are. In fact, the conscious thinking mind is even around 5% of your brain activity. We don't even really make decisions as much with our thoughts as we think. So you're going to learn how to connect to your body and also your unconscious, okay? Having a three-way conversation between your mind, body, and unconscious, you'll start to feel much more at home in yourself, because where you belong is in yourself, right? And we're also going to do some interesting work reconnecting with all the different versions of yourself. There's this idea that we know who we are, but we are many people. Over time, we've been many people. Even right now, you might be many people. And those different versions of yourself, first of all, they can need you to connect with them if you've kind of abandoned them. Second of all, some of those versions have some very powerful information that can help you or inspire you. I mean, this person right there, look at that. Look familiar? Weird, crooked smile, uneven eyebrows. That would be me, my friends. Age 5, I do believe, 4.5, 5. I think I kind of even have the same haircut, darn it. That picture is now in my mirror. I look at that every day. And when I look at it, I'm like, I'm staying alive for you, because that kid wanted to live. She had a lot of hopes and dreams, right? So I'm alive for her. I'm her caretaker. I'm her parent now. It's my responsibility to take care of her. So if you think right now back into your life, how old were you when you were free of suicidal and destructive thinking and wanted to live and had hopes and dreams? Can you sense that person still inside of you? And if you were their parent, what would you say to them right now? What words of kindness and love do you have to say to that person? So the next pillar, get down and dirty with some restructuring. So I mentioned earlier about the greater mind, your master identity that is always creative and wise. So we start to learn how to access and sink into and live from that greater mind. You'll also learn that your body has a large play on the decisions and responses you have in life, what I call the body-brain highway. Let's have a little experience of this gray zoning thought. So this actually arises from cognitive behavioral therapy, just to show you that your thoughts can be highly inaccurate. If right now you think of a situation, I'll create one. My boss hates me. Okay, that's a thought that you have. And you might think that's 100% true. So if I said to you, come up with 3 facts that prove that your boss hates you, you might say, they didn't talk to me yesterday. They choose other team members for things instead of me. They never ask you for a drink after work, if you're in England. But if I then said to you, give me 3 facts that prove that that's not true, well, I'm sure you could come up with some. They hired me. They haven't fired me. They have complimented me in the past. Maybe you got a raise in the last few years. My point being, we can generally find facts that prove and disprove almost anything. And what's far more helpful is to find the gray zone, which is a thought between the extremes. So instead of my boss hates me, but my boss loves me, it would be more like my boss chooses to work with me and we have a good working relationship, right? So let's get back to the greater mind, because the greater mind is so much a part of the Will to Live system. I want to just be very clear. This isn't about a mystical experience. Yes, a lot of great traditions like Buddhism, they do access what could be called the greater mind. It is a part of what we touch when we meditate, but it's also a metacognitive skill. We are now aware that during these times when you're getting out of your thinking, chattering monkey mind, what's happening is that the default mode network in your brain is losing its power. The default mode network is where we criticize, judge, worry, ruminate. It's all the stories we create. When we sink into the greater mind, that is dampened. And instead, we are able to engage with what's called the salience network or the central executive network. These are places where we can see things without being completely blinded by self-judgment and big emotions. Learning how to access and sink into this greater mind daily or constantly means that we can develop a truer sense of self, and we can start to be free of negative ways of seeing ourselves that really hold us back or drive us to think that it would be easier to just get rid of ourselves. So how do you access the greater mind? Well, we can have a mini experience right now. You do need to relax to access the greater mind. So breathe into your stomach and just imagine that you are relaxing your shoulders, back of your neck, your hands, your jaw. Imagine that you're relaxing the back of your head, even if that sounds strange, okay? And all I want you to do in this moment is to just tune into your thinking. And I'd like you to just see if you can grab a thought. Don't judge it. Just notice it. What's that thought saying? Can you hear the thought? And then let that thought go, like it's just like a balloon. You let go of the string and just grab another thought. What's the next thought that you can hear? Like it's a radio station that you're just listening to without caring what it says. You're not, again, judging. You're just hearing the radio. What does the thought say? Breathe. What does the thought say? And now I'd ask you, who is hearing that thought? See if you can sense what it is within you that is observing those thoughts. Because there's something else, isn't there? There's something observing and listening to those thoughts. That's also you, right? Feel that out. Where's that observer? Does it feel like a strange feeling in the back of your neck or mind? Where is it? Sink into it for a second. Or is it just a spacious feeling? So that is just a very simple experience of your greater mind. That feeling behind your thinking, what's sometimes called the observer. That's just a little taste. Okay, so the next pillar, let's get into it. Recalibrate. Once we have learned how to regulate our system, to be present to ourselves in our lives, when we've lowered the power of our thinking mind, we can start to move through the world in a different way, which is what recalibrating is about. For example, most people with destructive and suicidal thinking tend to make every decision they choose the wrong one. Constant anxiety. Is it the wrong decision? I did the wrong thing. So what if every decision was actually the right one? If you just spent one day deciding that everything you decided was perfect. One of the other things we can do is we can really struggle to see when things go right. I call this putting your attention on miracles. This isn't about like changing water to wine. This is about noticing the tiny miracles that pass in front of you every day from the simple miracle that you are alive. What if you learned how to notice all the tiny miracles all the time? What would that do to the way you move through the world? This one over here, the stuff about creating time. Well, this is another interesting one. Survival mode and destructive thinking often leaves us with this thought pattern. There's not enough time. I'm running out of time. It's funny because we're the kind of people who on one hand, our mind is saying we want to die, but on the other hand, we're panicking about not having enough time. So we want to end time, but we feel like we don't have enough time. I teach you how to own time, for lack of a better way of putting it. And this helps you to be more present to who you are. And again, when we're more present, we're less stressed. And when we're less stressed, we're less likely to veer towards suicidal thinking. You might be very surprised to realize how you're operating in the world. You might not realize how unable you are to sustain joy. If you weren't taught to sustain joy, if growing up, your home was very stressful, then your comfort zone is stress. And it can be a challenge to learn to sit with joy. But when you train your brain to sit with joy, it's remarkable what can happen. So it's only later on in the Will to Live system that I start working on release, because we really, again, need to know how to be present, to be connected. We need to know how to move through the world in a way that we feel safe before we can truly start to release things. A lot of times with the therapy world, they're pushing you to let go of things, but you don't feel safe yet. It's going to feel too terrifying to let go of systems, even if they hurt you. They're what you're used to. Once we have stabilized, then we can start letting go and creating space. We can look at letting go of belief systems, thinking patterns, people. Now, I'm not talking about cutting people out here. I'm talking about tools that help you mentally, emotionally, and energetically let go, which interestingly can create more change in life than trying to just cut someone off right away when you're still attached to them. Generally, if you do the work first, if that person is not meant to be your life, they will just move on. We also do a lot of work on releasing everything that makes you feel trapped. Entrapment is identified as one of the main drivers of suicidal thinking. We feel trapped. It's a thinking pattern, in a lot of cases a belief, but it can also be that we're making choices that keep us trapped. So we look at ways of releasing the things that keep us trapped. We definitely look at releasing the idea that you're a victim. This is not to say that you did not experience horrible things and you were not perhaps victimized as a child, but right now in this moment as an adult, you have free will. So all of this release work, I use a lot of brain training tools and energy tools. The tools I use, we're not reliving difficult things. What I'm very much into teaching is tools and tactics that work to help your thinking, your mind, let go of things without having to put yourself through unnecessary suffering. These are tools you can use again and again. They're a lifelong toolkit. And it's not about rolling in the crap, as I say. We're not wallowing. We're rearranging. And then the final pillar is reclaim. This is where you've let go, you've released, you've created room, because for us to reclaim our dreams, our energy, our power, our connection to others, and our future, we needed that space. All that stuff that we're holding on to, those beliefs, those situations, the old patterns of how we're helpless, they stop us accessing our power and energy and our dreams. But now we're going to look at really getting honest about what our dreams for ourselves were that we let go of. Really looking at how we can pull back all the energy that we've been letting our mind take from us, at pulling back our power. So the future self is really interesting. I really love working with the future self identity. It's a great tool for training your brain to want to live. There's a version of your future self that absolutely wants to be here. If you took a moment to imagine that your future self that truly wants to live, that is very happy with their life and with who they are, is that version of yourself. And they can be the future in a few years. They could be you at 80 years old. Imagine that that version of yourself is sitting across from you right now. What do they have to tell you about who you truly are? What do they have to tell you about what you truly have to give to others in this world? What do they truly have to tell you about the greatness that you already are right now? Just see if you can feel that person there, rooting for you, wanting you to stick around. So that's a brief overview of the Will to Live system. I hope you have learned something helpful from this presentation. At the very least, I hope that you've learned that there's something within you that deserves and desires to be here and belongs here. When people ask me why I do this, I truly believe that those amongst us who live with destructive and suicidal thinking are the ones who have incredible gifts to offer. We are the ones who are incredibly sensitive and often full of love, for lack of a better word, once we learn how to stabilize and allow ourselves to belong here. It's like an army waiting to be turned on and activated so we can start to serve this wacky old planet of ours and create change for everyone. I'll put links to the Will to Live system and to my community below the video. If you'd like to try the Greater Mind meditation, I have like a 10-minute audio that you can download and try for free, a little bit more detailed to get a deeper experience of the Greater Mind. Anyways, as I always say, I dare you to stick around today, and I dare you to stick around tomorrow because we need you down here.